Titanic.
The Titanic.
Titanic.
The Titanic. The Titanic.
Titanic.
The Titanic.
Congratulations! You can now forget everything you've seen in the movies or everything you've read in books and newspapers and heard from people. Now we have the most detailed and reliable study of the famous sunken ship. A large-scale Titanic 3D scan allows us to see in fine detail everything that happened during the disaster. And rest assured, there was a lot going on there that you've never heard of. Are you ready for Titanic new discoveries? Let's go!
A faint vibration runs through the metal of the submerged wreck, almost imperceptible yet persistent enough to draw the attention of every sensor trained on the famous ship. Instruments hum and lights blink in the submersible hovering outside the ruined bridge of the Titanic, as if the sea itself has paused to listen. It begins with a flicker of unusual energy along the forward bulkhead, a distortion not explained by currents, temperature shifts, or the many decades of corrosion. It pulses once, then again, gathering strength like a heartbeat beneath layers of collapsed steel. The research team, expecting nothing more than photographic documentation of the bridge, suddenly faces an anomaly that defies not only marine science but the very assumptions that have shaped the ship's legend. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The bridge, once the nerve center of the vessel, lies warped and shredded in the deep. The wheel stand is collapsed, the telemotor system half buried in silt, and the brass of the engine order telegraph dulled to a greenish patina. Even in ruin, it holds an unmistakable gravity. The submersible's floodlights sweep over this solemn chamber, illuminating the structural beams bent by the colossal impact with the seafloor. But something within that chamber is resisting the laws that govern the rest of the wreck. Where everything else has remained frozen in time, this anomaly behaves as if unaffected by the century-long weight of the deep. At first, the sensors pick up only a spatial irregularity, an area of the bridge interior scattering acoustic waves in unpredictable patterns. Then the cameras reveal a subtle distortion rippling through the silt-laden water. It appears like a shimmer or a warp, similar to heat haze on a summer road, but impossibly localized inside the frigid Atlantic depths. The research team assumes an equipment malfunction until multiple instruments correlate the phenomenon. Even the submersible's exterior hull reacts with a faint resonance, as though the anomaly is exerting an influence on surrounding metal. Soon the anomaly intensifies enough to make its boundaries visible. At the center of the bridge floor, just where Captain Smith once stood during calm Atlantic nights, a circular patch of water wavers with a smoothness that contradicts turbulence. Particulates drift toward it, slow at first, then with more urgency, spiraling as if pulled by an invisible force. Yet the anomaly produces no measurable current. Its pull is not hydrodynamic, it is something else entirely. Silt patterns inside its radius never settle. They levitate in slow motion, grains suspended in a gentle spiral that defies gravity. The lighting from the submersible reveals another striking detail. The metal surfaces nearest the phenomenon are strangely preserved. The rivets around a fractured bulkhead gleam faintly, their iron free of rust. The beam's surface is smooth, not eroded like the rest of the wreck. It is as though the anomaly has shielded this small circle of the ship from the passage of time. The team, who has studied maritime decay for years, recognizes immediately that such preservation cannot be natural. At this depth, salt water and bacteria devour everything. Yet here is a patch of steel that looks scarcely aged. As the cameras zoom closer, the preserved metal reveals faint tool marks still crisp on its surface. These would have been left by workers in Belfast's Harland and Wolff shipyard over a century ago. The anomaly has kept them as pristine as the day they were made. This detail alone could rewrite understandings of deep-sea conservation, but the oddity runs far deeper. Surrounding debris behaves strangely when drifting across the anomaly's boundary. A shard of coal floats toward the center of the disturbance, then abruptly changes trajectory, pivoting as though nudged by a force no one can see. It curves around the periphery as if the anomaly is enforcing a boundary, selecting what may pass through and what must be deflected. As the investigation continues, the team takes higher resolution scans. They detect faint electromagnetic signals inside the anomaly, pulses at irregular intervals. The pulses do not match oceanic interference, geological activity, or shipboard remnants that could still carry weak charge. Instead, the readings suggest a stable yet foreign frequency. At times, the pulse seems to mimic extremely low-frequency waveforms used in long-range communication. At others, it spikes in patterns not naturally occurring in marine environments. The longer the submersible remains near the bridge, the more the anomaly responds, as if aware of the intrusion. Then something extraordinary happens. For a brief moment, the shimmering distortion clarifies, revealing a fragment of visual detail that defies all expectations. Inside the anomaly, the water takes on a pale luminescence. The lights from the submersible do not create it. The glow emanates from within the anomaly. The luminescence spreads like a veil being pulled away. Behind that veil, the outline of a helm appears, whole and intact. The wheel stand, in reality collapsed beyond repair, is momentarily visible as if untouched. The broken telegraph, lying twisted nearby, appears upright within the distortion, gleaming with polished brass. Then, just as the cameras begin to focus, the vision collapses back into haze. The crew stares at the footage in disbelief. The anomaly is not merely preserving metal. It appears to be projecting or revealing an intact version of the bridge as it once was. This glimpse is fleeting, lasting no more than a second, yet it is long enough to raise questions that unravel the boundaries between physics, memory, and time. The anomaly behaves like a window or a stitched seam across layers of temporal reality. It is neither illusion nor hallucination. Multiple sensors confirm the visual changes, detecting simultaneous alterations in light reflection and electromagnetic density. The team dives deeper into data, searching for a logical explanation. One possibility is that the anomaly may be a naturally occurring quantum fluctuation, though no known marine environment has ever exhibited one at this scale. Another theory suggests that the metal alloys of Titanic's bridge have interacted with oceanic pressure and temperature in a way that creates a standing wave pocket. Yet none of these theories account for the temporal images, nor the preservation of materials inside the distorted space. The anomaly resists categorization. It is like a knot in the fabric of reality, formed by unknown forces or by conditions not previously documented in any shipwreck. As the submersible orbits the bridge, trying different angles, the anomaly pulses again, and the sensors pick up an unexpected reading. Internal structure movement within the anomaly. Something within shifts position ever so slightly, though there is no mechanical system inside the wreck that could possibly move after more than a century underwater. When the cameras adjust, the anomaly briefly shows another fragmentary picture. This time, it is a flash of open water viewed from above the bridge as if from the ship's perspective. It lasts only moments but captures a horizon and sky that could not exist at the wreck's current depth. The team cannot dismiss these visions as reflections or distortions. They appear to be windows into earlier moments of the ship's existence. The implications begin to gather weight. If the anomaly truly accesses moments from the ship's past, even imperfectly, it may hold imprints of the final hours before the Titanic's sinking. More unsettling still is the idea that the anomaly may be a record or a remnant of the event itself, an echo of immense energy imprinted on the ship's structure. Catastrophic events often leave lingering signatures in material, whether physical or energetic. Perhaps the sudden trauma of the collision and the ship's massive breakup created conditions conducive to forming this anomaly. However, the level of precision and persistence involved far exceeds what natural processes typically leave behind. As the crew continues collecting data, they notice that each pulse from the anomaly slightly alters the surrounding water temperature. The changes are minute, fractions of a degree, but consistent. Highly localized temperature shifts like these resemble distortions produced in laboratory experiments on manipulated space-time fields. Although such experiments are theoretical and unverified on this scale, the similarity unsettles the team. If the anomaly is bending or stretching time in any way, it could be creating microenvironments where temporal flow is irregular. Another concern emerges. The anomaly appears to respond to proximity. The closer the submersible moves, the more active the pulses become. It is unclear whether the anomaly is reacting to mechanical vibration, electrical systems, or the presence of observers. Regardless, the pattern suggests a form of feedback loop. The disturbance is not static, it interacts. This raises questions about the stability of the surrounding structure. If the anomaly alters local physics, even slightly, it could affect the integrity of the wreck and the safety of the team. The next significant event occurs when the submersible deploys a specialized probe toward the anomaly. As the probe approaches the distortion, its tether begins to oscillate uncontrollably. The probe's sensors spike, sending volatile readings back to the submersible. Before it crosses into the anomaly's boundary, the tether snaps violently, sheared clean as though cut by an invisible blade. The probe drifts into the anomaly without human control. For a moment, it hovers within the shimmering field. Then, all contact is lost. The probe does not reappear, nor do the cameras capture its exit. It is simply gone. This disappearance triggers a new wave of urgency. The anomaly is not merely distorting matter, it may be displacing it. If objects can vanish upon entering, the anomaly might lead to a different spatial location or temporal frame entirely. The idea is dizzying, and no one can immediately confirm whether the probe is destroyed or transferred elsewhere. The loss of the probe suggests that the anomaly's boundary acts as a threshold, one that does not permit ordinary matter to cross in predictable ways. Attention turns back to the preserved metal near the anomaly. Perhaps this preservation results from partial exposure to the same displacement effects. If fragments of the bridge momentarily crossed into a different temporal layer, even for an instant, it could explain their lack of decay. The anomaly may act like a membrane dividing multiple realities or timelines, allowing certain materials to be shielded from decay by residing partially outside normal time flow. If so, the preserved rivets and beams are both relics and participants in a larger process beyond human understanding. The crew reviews archival blueprints of the Titanic bridge, comparing them to the brief intact images seen inside the anomaly. To their astonishment, the layout in the anomaly matches precisely, down to minute details of railing placement and wheel housing dimensions. This accuracy would be impossible without reference materials. Since the anomaly predates modern scanning equipment, and since the wreck itself lies in pieces, the intact image cannot be a psychological projection or digital reconstruction artifact. The anomaly is referencing something that existed physically, not hypothetically. The question arises, is this a residual imprint left by the ship itself? Some theories in physics suggest that moments of intense emotional or physical energy can imprint tiny fluctuations in their environment, though this remains speculative. Titanic's sinking was one of the most traumatic maritime disasters in history. The sudden structural failure, human panic, and rapid descent created an extreme convergence of forces. Perhaps this unique combination carved a non-natural echo into the surrounding space-time. If that echo has persisted, the anomaly could be its manifestation. Investigations continue with increasingly cautious maneuvers. The submersible maintains distance as further scans attempt to map the anomaly's internal geometry. The geometry does not conform to any known natural phenomenon. Instead of a sphere or vortex, it resembles a layered structure, like concentric shells of altered water density. These shells fluctuate independently, forming a pattern that suggests deliberate organization rather than chaos. Despite this, there is no evidence of human or technological origin. No mechanism, no device, nothing artificial is embedded within the wreck to create such an effect. As hours pass, the anomaly expands slightly. The increase is small but measurable, extending its radius by several centimeters. Whether this expansion is temporary or marks a long-term trend is unknown. This introduces an unsettling possibility. The anomaly may not be stable. If its boundaries continue to shift, it could begin affecting larger parts of the bridge and potentially the surrounding wreck. The team must work quickly to gather all possible data before conditions change further. Another pulse strikes, stronger than before, and the anomaly flickers with intensity. Cameras capture a clearer image this time, one lasting nearly 3 seconds. The intact bridge appears again, lit by the soft glow of lanterns, with every console polished and every brass fixture shining. A faint breeze ruffles what appears to be a map lying on the chart table. The image is eerily vivid. It shows no crew members, yet the space feels inhabited, as if footsteps could echo at any moment. The site collapses just as quickly, but not before leaving the team with an unmistakable impression. The anomaly is not merely showing structural details, it is presenting lived reality from a moment frozen in time. As the crew processes what they have witnessed, a subtle change becomes apparent. Audio sensors detect a faint murmuring vibration not consistent with mechanical noise. It resembles distant movement or muffled voices filtered through layers of water. While impossible to interpret, its presence suggests that the anomaly carries more than visual information. It may encapsulate sounds trapped from a moment in the ship's life. The possibility of sound preserved in some form of temporal resonance is staggering, especially given the lack of any surviving recording instruments aboard the Titanic. Attention shifts to the anomaly's reaction to light. When the submersible increases its illumination, the distortion brightens, amplifying the clarity of its internal structures. When lights dim, the anomaly's glow fades as well. It seems to draw energy from external sources, adapting its visibility accordingly. This suggests a degree of interactivity, though unintentional, between observer and phenomenon. If so, the anomaly is not a passive object. It responds to stimuli in a way that suggests an underlying principle or mechanism at work. The team then analyzes water samples drawn from just outside the anomaly's boundary. These samples show slight isotopic irregularities, subtle changes in molecular vibration patterns, and traces of unexplained energetic residues. None of these readings match typical deep ocean chemistry. They resemble conditions seen in theoretical simulations of altered temporal environments, though such environments have never been documented in real-world settings. The anomaly is manipulating matter at a molecular level, lending further weight to the theory of temporal distortion. While the team debates these findings, the anomaly emits a sudden, low-frequency pulse that causes the submersible's lights to flicker. The pulse briefly interferes with communications. The hull resonates again, stronger than before, as if struck by a wave of force. This jolt triggers dropping silt along nearby steel beams, but the anomaly remains untouched at its center. Whatever force it exerts does not behave outwardly like a shockwave. Instead, it selectively interacts with electronic systems. After stabilizing the submersible, the crew observes something new. A faint pattern forms along the anomaly's inner surface, resembling ripples that organize into geometric shapes. These shapes evolve before the cameras, concentric circles, intersecting arcs, then intricate lattices that resemble mathematical diagrams. Whether these patterns are incidental or encoded information is uncertain, yet they repeat in cycles, appearing with each pulse before dissolving back into fluid distortion. The longer the anomaly operates, the more the surrounding environment seems to gravitate toward its influence. Particulates settle more slowly. Light bends slightly near the boundary. The water appears thicker, almost gelatinous. It becomes increasingly clear that the anomaly represents a local disruption of the physics governing this region of the wreck. If left undisturbed, it might persist indefinitely. But if the anomaly grows or destabilizes, the consequences could alter the wreck's condition dramatically. In light of these developments, one final scan is initiated using a different acoustic frequency. This triggers one of the most striking effects yet recorded. The anomaly expands briefly, doubling in size, and reveals the clearest glimpse to date. The entire bridge appears pristine, illuminated by natural daylight rather than lantern light. The ocean is absent. Instead, the horizon stretches endlessly. The telegraph stands upright, gleaming brightly. The helm is clean and unblemished. The air appears clear and calm. Every surface looks as though the ship has just left port. Then the image collapses into darkness. Lights flicker back on, and the anomaly shrinks to its original size, pulsing gently as if exhausted. The team realizes that the anomaly may be capable of pulling larger temporal fragments into view when triggered by certain frequencies. This adds yet another layer of complexity to its behavior. These glimpses of the intact ship are not consistent in their time frame or setting. Some appear to show the ship during calm moments. Others give fragmented impressions of movement or wind. It is unclear whether they all belong to a single point in time or multiple overlapping moments preserved within the anomaly. The implications expand beyond the ship itself. If such an anomaly can form under catastrophic circumstances, perhaps other historical wrecks could harbor similar distortions. It may be a rare but natural response of space-time to traumatic events of immense scale. Or it could be unique to Titanic due to unknown factors. Her size, the speed of her descent, or the exact sequence of structural stresses during impact. The thought that disasters could create lingering imprints of reality raises profound questions about how the universe preserves information. The team compiles all data, trying to identify a central principle linking every observation: the preservation of metal, the temporal images, the electromagnetic pulses, the displacement of the probe, and the geometric patterns. One possibility emerges, though still theoretical. The anomaly may be a localized fold where time has partially looped or compressed. In such a fold, fragments of past events could be projected into the present. Physical materials caught inside the fold would be protected from decay, while foreign objects entering might be displaced into different layers of the fold itself. This theory, though speculative, is the only one capable of connecting every observed phenomenon. Yet the anomaly continues to pulse calmly, as if indifferent to human attempts at explanation. It remains a silent echo of the ship's final hours, a distortion wrapped in unanswered questions. The bridge around it stands in ruin, but the anomaly hints at what the space once was. It offers fleeting glimpses, not of tragedy or destruction, but of the ship's serene existence before calamity struck. The thought that such moments could be preserved in any form brings a sense of awe that outweighs fear. Efforts continue, cautious and deliberate, mindful that the anomaly's nature is still largely unknown. It remains there inside the broken bridge, pulsing in quiet defiance of time, a shimmering knot in the ocean's vast darkness. Whatever created it, whatever sustains it, remains hidden, but its presence hints at mysteries far greater than the wreck itself, mysteries that reach into the fabric of reality surrounding it. A faint tremor runs through the submersible again, softer this time, as if the anomaly inside Titanic's bridge has settled into a rhythm. Yet even in that rhythm, new layers of complexity begin to surface. The distortion, while familiar by now, carries undertones that were not present earlier. The pulses are steadier, almost measured, as if the phenomenon is cycling through phases, each revealing a different aspect of its structure. The team, fatigued yet unwilling to withdraw, observes carefully as the anomaly begins a subtle transformation entirely unlike its prior displays. The water surrounding the distortion deepens to a darker shade, shifting from translucent blue to an inky cobalt. This change is not caused by silt or lighting. The water itself seems to be altering its optical properties. The team magnifies the view and discovers that particles around the anomaly are oscillating faster than before, vibrating as if struck by alternating forces. These vibrations create faint trails of light, microscopic streaks that resemble tiny comets drifting in loops. They form spirals and slivers, dancing around the anomaly like minuscule fireflies in slow motion. Within this swirling microcosm, the anomaly's shape becomes sharper. Its edges, once blurred and wavering, crystallize into a more defined boundary. It resembles a sphere now, though imperfect. Its surface dips inward in places, rising outward in others, forming a nearly organic geometry. The boundary glows with a sheen that no longer depends on the submersible's illumination. It emits its own faint luminosity, a cold, pale radiance that makes the edges of the surrounding wreck glint like frost. As the team watches, the glow strengthens. The sphere's surface ripples outward in concentric waves. Not unlike the ripple patterns that had appeared earlier, but these waves travel with intent. Each ripple carries a resonance detectable on the submersible's instruments. The readings suggest a highly ordered pattern, almost like coded signals repeating at specific intervals. The crew attempts to map these intervals to any known physical phenomena: radiation cycles, deep ocean current harmonics, electromagnetic oscillations, but none align. The pulses are too coherent, too deliberate to be natural interference. Then something unexpected occurs. For the first time, the anomaly begins to influence the environment beyond its immediate radius. The temperature sensors positioned throughout the submersible register a subtle but measurable gradient. The water near the anomaly grows a fraction colder, while water several meters away warms slightly. The shift is minuscule yet unnatural in its precision. Temperature currents in the deep ocean rarely form symmetrical gradients like this. It is as if the anomaly is imposing a thermal signature on the water column, carving out a pattern that reflects its internal state. The team hypothesizes that these gradients may represent phases of the anomaly's cycle, like the crest and trough of a repeating waveform. The sphere expands slightly at the peak of the warm to cold shift, then contracts during the reverse. If this cycle continues, the anomaly might be preparing for a more significant shift, possibly a structural transformation or release of accumulated energy. The submersible holds position, maintaining a safe distance while sensors record every detail. As the anomaly expands during one of its peaks, a faint shimmer flickers across its surface. The shimmer stabilizes into an image, this time not the bridge itself, but something abstract. Lines of light trace across the sphere's interior, crossing and intersecting like the strands of an elaborate web. The lines glow with different intensities, creating the sense of depth and layering. The image resembles a star chart, though it possesses no recognizable constellations. Other interpretations emerge: a navigation grid, a blueprint, or even a map of energy pathways. Yet the pattern changes too rapidly to decipher. Within seconds, it dissolves into a hazy swirl, replaced by a new configuration entirely. Each pattern seems to contain its own internal logic, but the logic is elusive. One set of lines forms spirals reminiscent of ocean currents, then shifts into jagged, lightning-like streaks that cut across the field. Another transforms into a lattice of hexagons, flickering like a honeycomb made of light. Every transformation hints at meaning, but the meaning remains shrouded. While reviewing the sensor data, the team notices something striking. The electromagnetic pulses emitted during these image cycles match some of the frequencies cataloged earlier, but now they align with specific visual transitions. Each shift in the anomaly's luminous patterns corresponds to a pulse signature, creating a kind of symbiotic interaction between light and signal. The anomaly appears to be transmitting information, though whether intentionally or as a byproduct of its internal workings remains unknown. The crew debates whether these shifting images might be impressions from the ship's final hours, encoded in ways that do not directly resemble physical structures, but instead reflect the flow of energy or stress patterns within the ship during the disaster. Titanic's breakup generated forces far beyond what her steel hull was designed to endure. Perhaps the anomaly has preserved not only visual moments, but also the energetic signatures of those catastrophic stresses, replayed not as literal scenes, but as dynamic shapes of pressure, movement, and collapse. Then the anomaly does something that halts the conversation entirely. It emits a tone. The sound reverberates through the water, audible not only through instruments, but faintly through the submersible's hull. It is low, almost inaudible, a hum that feels rather than hears, like distant thunder carried through stone. The vibration is harmonic, not random. It oscillates in a rising and falling pattern, steady and controlled. No natural underwater sources produce tones of this character at this depth, especially not from a static object like a shipwreck. The hum persists for several seconds, then shifts in pitch. The team's acoustic specialist notes that the tone matches with uncanny precision some of the oscillations detected earlier in electromagnetic form. It is as if the anomaly is shifting between modes, electromagnetic to acoustic, using different mediums to express the same underlying pattern. When the tone ends, a soft, rippling wave spreads outward, barely perceptible but distinct in the silt stirred from the wreck. Right after the tone fades, the anomaly changes again. The interior begins to brighten, swelling with white light that pushes outwards but does not break through the sphere's boundary. The glow intensifies until the details inside become obscured, and the sphere resembles a tiny star embedded within the wreck. The intensity rises, and instruments alert the team to increasing radiation. Nothing dangerous, but unusual enough to demand vigilance. The sphere then contracts sharply, shrinking to half its size in less than a second. The compression is so sudden that the surrounding water surges inward before quickly stabilizing. The small sphere pulses once like a heartbeat, then slowly re-expands to its former diameter. This contraction-expansion cycle repeats twice more, each time with slight variations in speed and amplitude. The pattern seems rehearsed, as though the anomaly is adjusting itself or responding to an unknown stimulus. As the anomaly settles into a new rhythm, the water around the bridge begins to behave strangely. For the first time, the team witnesses large-scale shifts in silt patterns unrelated to normal ocean floor movement. The silt forms circular eddies around the bridge, spiraling in a manner that mirrors the motions inside the anomaly. The patterns are synchronized. This connection suggests that the anomaly's influence extends beyond its boundary and into the environment, affecting water dynamics on a scale not previously observed. While observing these spirals, the team notices another oddity. The preserved metal near the anomaly, those rivets and beams untouched by rot, now gleam slightly brighter. Not visibly, but in the infrared spectrum. Their thermal signatures shift subtly, becoming slightly warmer than the surrounding rusted steel. Though only by fractions of a degree, this warming indicates energy transfer. The anomaly is not merely preserving these materials, it may be interacting with them continuously, maintaining their molecular integrity through unknown means. As the analysis continues, a new proposition arises. The anomaly might be anchored to these preserved structures. The unaffected metal could serve as reference points, or stabilizing nodes that keep the phenomenon fixed in place. Without such anchors, the anomaly might drift or collapse. This theory aligns with the consistent preservation found only in areas immediately adjacent to the distortion. If so, then the anomaly and the ship's structure are intertwined in ways that defy conventional physical reasoning. Meanwhile, the anomaly's pulses grow stronger again. Its glow brightens, then dims with a rhythm almost reminiscent of breathing. The pulsing begins to influence the lighting inside the wreck. Shadows along the bridge walls stretch and shrink, behaving as though the anomaly exerts a gravitational pull on the very illumination. Despite the lack of airflow or natural shifting light, the shadows move as if responding to a living presence. This phenomenon intensifies until an extraordinary event occurs. The shadows converge near the anomaly, forming a fleeting outline that appears disturbingly humanoid. The figure is not detailed, just a silhouette, tall and indistinct, shifting with the pulse of the distortion. It stands near the telegraph, immobile, for a fraction of a second before dissolving back into fluid darkness. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on this Titanic bridge anomaly and what will happen next? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.